Hello, hello, and welcome. Hello, Rosemary.
Hi,
Hello,
Rosemary.
Hello.
Yellow Ben.
Yellow Ben. Oh, no, 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 no. Shh.
Me?
No, that was YouTube on the other tab, so that I can keep a chat window open over here, and it's just multitasking.
But you're good at juggling.
I am, but I drop balls all the time. Because mostly I'm a juggling teacher as opposed to a juggling performer, and so doesn't matter. That's a distraction. Introduce yourselves. Fight amongst yourselves.
Yeah, go
Who's
ahead.
first?
You first, Veeral.
Alrighty. So my name is Veeral. My YouTube channel is Veeral Videos, and what I like to do is I like to, in my videos, teach people the fundamental ideas behind critical thinking, logic, and argumentation, so that they can help better understand what it means to have a good reason for believing in the things that they believe in, as opposed to having a bad reason and being dogmatic about it. So ultimately, I really want to help in my videos help people develop a different mindset towards thinking about different stuff that they're told and what they currently believe in.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Just plain old boring street epistemology. How are you different than other street epistemology creators?
Well, instead of having people try to learn by experience, learn from bits and pieces from different videos and different people who do street epistemology, I want to go ahead and synthesize and present the information in a very succinct way so that people can really understand the underlying ideas, so they don't have to hunt and find the key components to street epistemology. Because critical thinking doesn't just apply to street epistemology, it can apply to so many other aspects of life, like debates as well.
Okay. So it
It's
sounds
teaching people the tools behind
right.
street epistemology and better understand them. That's the way
Okay, so this
I
is an
describe it.
instructor teachy kind of mode as opposed to demonstrating in conversations.
Yes, but in
Nice.
the future, I do plan on going out and implementing these ideas into the real world.
Excellent. If there's
Yeah.
anything I can do, or Mark from Being Reasonable can do, to help that out, hit us up, and we will just start making it happen and things like that. Mark specifically is in charge of our creator committee. You can creator committee. Maybe somebody can grab that link and throw it in the chat.
I've spoken to Mark before.
Yeah. So you can hit him up on Gmail because the Street Epistemology community has an organization, with some funding, not huge amounts of funding, but enough to provide things like microphones and cameras and especially lots of tech help and that kind of thing. For example, I am quite happy to help people with editing remotely. You can Dropbox me and I can throw them back at you and things like that. And so far that's worked out pretty well. I have learned something. This is particularly fun. I can edit videos in languages I don't understand.
Oh.
Yeah, I was sent a conversation that was in German, and sound sync works just the same. It didn't matter that I didn't understand. I could tell when somebody was like introducing themselves and things like that. So that was no problem. And just there you go, edit the video, not a problem. It's mostly about gestures and human communication, emotional communication, and that kind of thing. As far as how video editing works, can I understand? Can I see their face? Is there an emotional response? Is any of those kind of things? So
you look at like body language and expression and tone.
Yeah, exactly.
All of that.
Much more than content, because content's not something I'm controlling. I'm not editing for time. I'm not cutting any parts out. I'm just making sure that all of it can be understood, and the visual component then comes along for the emotional expression, the nonverbal parts of the communication, which are kind of, well, they're not entirely universal. It's like this is means a different thing where you are, Veeral, and this is a wait. This is no, and this is yes. No, what's the? Am I correct that there's a head tilt difference?
For
where I live, this is yes and this is no. And I
I've
think
seen that like in movies and stuff. I
I've
don't know.
seen that this is one of those, and this means the opposite thing.
I think that I always thought the head tell just meant like, oh, that's a really interesting idea.
Oh,
That's
okay.
what that's
So
what I
more
interpreted it
nuance.
as.
Like, I'm listening, I understand what you're acknowledging.
Yeah, you're listening,
That's what I
acknowledging,
thought
you're
it meant.
saying, and you're listening,
Okay.
acknowledging, and thinking, oh, this is an interesting idea. I like it.
Okay.
It creates that impression in people.
Okay. So it's not an affirmative, I agree. It's more nuanced. I love that. That's even better. I would love to add that.
But I mean, if you love it, then don't you? Then it kind of seems like you're implicitly agreeing with it if you think about it.
Well, that would be the default. That would be the direction anyway. Yes. So Lisa, tell me about you. Who you?
Yeah, I'm Lisa. I have a little tiny YouTube channel. It's called The Road to Reflection. And I haven't really put much on it lately. I've been busy the last month or two. But I do run a meetup group here in Salt Lake City. And we do Street Epistemology study and practice meetings twice a month, sometimes 3 times a month. We do it every other Saturday. And any other time a group wants to get together and do it. So we've been continuing to do that and keeping busy. Now the weather is starting to get cold here, so we might not get outside very often, but that's what I do. With Street Epistemology, I do the meetings. And we do have another meeting. If anyone's thinking about starting a club or an organization in their area and wants help with that, getting it going, or ideas of what to do, what to say, how to get the word out, how to get people to show up, we're going to have a meeting to discuss those types of things on November 5th, I think. Look on Discord. It'll pop up if anybody's interested, or you can contact me. I'm Unruly Lucy on Discord. So you can find me there or email my YouTube channel.
Cool.
Yeah.
Reed and I have been discussing doing something similar to your method, which I understand is reserving a room in a public library and like a conference room or something, study room.
Yeah, they have meeting rooms.
Oh yeah. Public libraries, at least in my area, they also have that too. You just got to reserve it ahead of time.
Yep. So I do it usually about a month in advance, and I pick the days and times that work for me, for my schedule. Since I'm planning it, I get to do that. And just usually pick a Saturday morning or afternoon, whatever fits into my schedule. And there's different sizes of rooms, and we meet at different libraries around the city just to kind of make it more convenient for as many people as possible. So I usually get like a 30-person or bigger room, just so I put out a big table in the middle and we can all just sit around it.
Okay.
It's pretty cool.
You put out a big table. Is the table already there and then you just dress it?
Yeah.
Or you actually pull a table off the wall and pull the
They
legs
usually
out?
they're like folding tables. They keep them in the closet because it's a community room used by lots of different organizations. So
Right. So you could have square dancing in the room.
Yeah. And they do yoga classes and stuff like that in the rooms too. So there's lots of different options, and different libraries have different things. But there's usually a whiteboard, which is nice. We always use the whiteboard. And chairs, obviously. And sometimes people bring kids, and we'll have like a little kids corner. They'll bring toys and coloring books and stuff. So that works on occasion as well. Not very often, but it does happen. So yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, we're thinking of when Reed and I were talking about it last, we were saying doing it, copying Lisa's pattern, and then adding one thing of we would bring audio video equipment, and then people could intentionally opt in to have a conversation recorded, then to at the end decide whether they would like it published.
I would love to do that at our meetings. I just don't have the skills, so I haven't done it.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm open for and available if anybody wants to help me set that up, make that happen.
Yeah, indeed. So. We've also been talking about what is the minimum viable equipment. You already have the audio equipment going, and that seems to be quality, and you've got that one covered. So it seems like one of those GoPros that has a lens on each side, GoPro Max.
I have one of those. I just don't know what I'm doing.
Oh,
So.
okay. I invite you to the next meeting. Just bring it, throw it on a tripod, offset, right, not between each other's nose, but a little offset and equidistant. Hit record.
Push the button, right?
Just push the button, and at the end of the meeting, Dropbox me the thing, and I'll go through with you.
I could do that. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Another thing that I'm offering is if there's some technical support that can help a creator, I'm looking for opportunities to make tutorials. So in a case like that, what I might do is have you come on StreamYard. We do it unlisted so that it's not confusing, and I would share my screen and go through with you and show you what I do, and you could even try it on your end and various things, and then I can grab the you and show you what I do, and you kill that YouTube tab or just make it silent. Thank you.
And Mark did go through with me some basic how to get it set up, how to get it so like it's ready to go. I just haven't actually made that next step to push the button.
We'll make it happen. And then what I'll do with a tutorial like that is I would download it, throw it into my video editor, and take all the sections where we're waiting for downloads or emails or this, or there's a silent section, and just go fast forward through those and present something with just the cool information. Good day, Chase.
Hi, Chase.
Good day.
Hello.
It's a day.
Sorry for messing things up. That's kind of my thing.
Not at all. Not a problem. Not a problem. We are fast and loose and goosey and happy.
Tell me what here.
I saw a claim that you just throw on. Is that the one you want to talk about? Let's see. It's scroll back. SE can enable bigotry.
Can enable bigotry.
Is that the claim you'd like to talk about?
Yes, sir.
Yay! All right. Tell me
a spicy one.
Yeah, that's a spicy one. Tell me about how SE can enable bigotry. SE, well, that's what we're doing. That's enough of a definition, right?
I think we're all familiar. Yep.
Okay. What is bigotry?
Let's see. Prejudice and or discrimination against somebody for something they can't control, maybe, and usually minority groups. So things based on arbitrary factors like race, sex, gender, sexual orientation, species, when we're talking about animal rights, nations, where you're born. People will, discriminate against you because you're from another place and go bomb your country or whatever, or enslave you.
Okay, so let's see. Hide that current ticker, create a banner, claim, SE.
And what do you mean by street epistemology? What the whole thing in general, like the whole idea?
Yeah. I mean the practice of and I mean here's how I sum up street epistemology is a polite conversation where one person asks only questions of the other person to try to see what they believe, why they believe it, and if the reasons they have are good or not.
Okay, so asking questions in this manner could enable bigotry.
It's not just the asking of questions. I mean, I can actually go ahead and make my statement as to why if you want. But it's just the entire process.
Entire process. Okay.
Yeah. So it's not simply asking questions. Because I think I could, if I was talking to a bigot, I think I could ask or only ask questions, make no statements, and yet not be practicing SE because I could be insulting. I could be purposefully insulting them with the questions I'm asking. Yeah. And that might actually be more appropriate than street epistemology. And in fact, maybe I shouldn't ask them any questions at all. Maybe I should shun them publicly or even in private so that they don't feel comfortable with their bigotry. Because if I, if, and this is a big if, people are different, but if I can't politely educate and motivate somebody to stop their bigotry, then I can at least make them very uncomfortable, because I don't think that bigots should be comfortable in society.
Okay.
So do you mean by not calling them out on their bigotry and the bigoted things they're saying that enables it?
Yeah, in essence, yeah. So I'm at like a 51% on my confidence that SE can enable bigotry, and not that it always does, but that okay, so let's do an example, I guess, of let's say an SE practitioner is interviewing somebody whose claim is gay people should be murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And their reason is because the Bible said so, because it does
Mm-hmm.
in Leviticus 20:13. Yep. And, or if we want to switch that, because a lot of times Christians will say, oh, that was back then, not now, and it's different or whatever. Either
Mm-hmm.
way, even if they're saying it was morally right for gays to be murdered back then, even if it's not okay now for whatever silly reason, either way, that's bigotry. That's a justification of murdering gay people needlessly. Simply because they're different. And so if an SE practitioner, the first question might be like, should an SE practitioner even engage in that kind of conversation with somebody like that or with a claim like that? I would argue that maybe they should, because even if you do just stick to SE, that can have a positive impact on helping this person reflect on their terrible beliefs and realize that their reasons are not good and the conclusions are not good and they wouldn't want it done to them, and help them just be more critically minded in general. And I like that. I worry, though, that that's not always enough, maybe for all of them, or probably more just for some of them. I think some bigots can be rehabilitated, and the SE would be a great way to do that. But I guess I feel like if at the end of the SE conversation, they've not really budged. One thing I say when I'm doing animal rights activism is like, well, I just laid the whole thing out. They should fucking change tonight. And if they don't, like, it's pretty fucked up. Okay. It makes me mad. It makes me real mad. Okay. But maybe they'll change in 6 months. Like I tortured animals for 26 years and never really thought about it, but I changed. I used to make fun of vegans, and now look at me. So I like to have hope that people could change, even if at the end of the initial conversation, it doesn't look like they will. But some people are so, like, they've thought about it already, like maybe not in the form of SE, but they're so entrenched in this ideology of bigotry that it really looks like nothing's going to get them out of there. And so maybe try that nice way with the SE, and if at the end they're not moved, maybe it's time for some serious activism then. Because like I said, they should not feel comfortable saying this stuff in public or even having it in their fucking head.
What do you think the relative risk? So I think what we're doing is comparing SE to
shaming.
Yeah,
I mean, either shaming or like
debate.
Yeah, or debate. Debate can quickly turn into shaming. It's not necessarily the same. Sure. So I guess we'd have a scale of like SE is the sweetest approach. Debate is one notch up, and then shaming would be the next up from there, and then would be violence.
Okay. Yep. Violence.
So you're at a 51%.
Not that I'm necessarily saying that violence is something I or an SE practitioner should engage in.
I won't.
But that would be the next level if nothing else works, or imprisonment, I guess.
Paul Schlachter. I follow up Paul Schlachter, but okay, maybe it's the same one. I don't know. You'll tell me.
If you're doing SE and somebody comes up with a bigoted claim, do you think it'd be better to jump right to shaming, or
not
jump
necessarily
right to debate and just skip the SE?
Not necessarily, no. I try to enter conversations in good faith, and hoping that people will change and try to bring out the better angels of our nature. But if we're talking about a fucking skinhead on the sidewalk with a, you know, Nazi protest sign, you know, that's a bit different. That's a different situation. And that dude is there for battle. He's not there to think or engage in a polite conversation or change his mind or be open to anything.
Well, I'm not going to confront him on that. I couldn't fight him, or there's no way. If he wants a battle, then I would definitely only do SE and stop it at that.
Okay.
Would you?
Yeah, I wouldn't. That? Well, I mean, if he's there for battle, I don't think SE is gonna. I mean, like I'm saying, I don't think SE would work in that situation. Would
that enable the bigotry?
Yeah, that's what I think. And I think that because it's shrugging it off. That's the sense of it, is that SE shrugs off the bigotry because you're trying to remain neutral. And there's a great line that if you are neutral in situations of oppression, you have chosen the side of the oppressor, because neutrality does not help the victim. It helps the oppressor to continue their oppression.
I see.
Silence is compliance.
Yes.
Neutrality maintains the status quo. Status quo maintains the oppression.
Yes. Silence is compliance. Now,
hey, Chase,
I want to interrupt for a moment.
Yeah.
Gorgeous says, "Who's the guest speaking now?" Chase, would you introduce yourself and then come back?
Yeah, my name is Chase Avier, and I'm a hardcore human and animal rights activist. Been so for 20 years for humans and 12 years for animals. Vegan as fuck. And we're going to make meat illegal because slaughter is animal cruelty. And trans rights, LGBTQ rights, immigrant rights, leave people alone. Fuck the rich. That's all you need.
But only with consent.
Yeah.
No, that's not what you meant.
I'm a communist. I'm a communist. I think there should be no classism, no class system, no rich, no poor, no middle class, everybody equal.
Question: If you
one more thing, I'm sorry, I'm bisexual and have felt the oppression of this kind of anti-gay bigotry from my family and many people, many Christians.
Veeral, did you have something you were talking about?
Yes, I was going to bring up the point. Chase, have you heard of a man named Daryl Davis?
Yeah, and I love that story where he is a black man who approaches members of the Ku Klux Klan and basically says, how can you hate me if you don't even know me? And he does so in a polite but firm manner, it seems. I haven't watched the whole documentary, but what's the name of that called? Do you know?
Accidental Courtesy.
Okay, yeah, Accidental.
It's a really good documentary. I highly recommend everybody watches that. It's really an eye-opener.
Definitely. And I've studied a lot about nonviolence from the civil rights movement and these kinds of things, where the activists would go in and sit at the lunch counter at the whites only section, and white customers would come and beat the black people for sitting in the whites only section, and the black people had been trained to not fight back and to just take the blows and essentially not even like cover up, just because it shows love and mercy and forgiveness even when it's undeserved, and that like gives you the moral high ground so that when the audience is seeing this, you look like the good guy because you're just you're standing up for your rights but not harming anybody in the process, and they see that our opposition is using violence against nonviolent people, and that makes our opponents look worse. And nonviolence, there's lots of reasons for nonviolence, and also it can, be one of the things that is most likely to get your opposition to come to your side, because you're acting in good faith and showing that undeserved mercy. And it's like it can be harder for someone to keep beating you if you're saying I love you and like I understand you're mad and all this shit, but like you look to Gandhi and stuff. The human nature, yeah, like you see it with police brutality or with the Gandhi protests, that the authority figures love to beat you if you're giving them a reason, such as resisting. But if you're just chilling, they are more likely to stop sooner. That doesn't always happen though. But
right, it's a big risk, but I think it's very effective especially if it's seen from the outside.
Yeah. So going back to Daryl Davis with the KKK, yeah, and he's befriended like I think 100 KKK members or something, and they've relinquished their robes to him, and he has them as like a trophy kind of thing, and they've like retired from the KKK, and that's beautiful, and I think we need to foster more of that in society. And
So good.
The thing is, though, like he mentioned it multiple times in interviews that he didn't actually set out to convert anybody from being a white supremacist to not being one. He just wanted to find an answer to his question. How can you hate me when you don't even know me? All he cared about was just learning more about them. And by talking with them, he was able to find that there are some things that we do have in common, like love for music. He's a musician by trade. And he found that even KKK members, they love music as well. And that was something that that commonality allowed them to
They could bond
build
on
the bridge, and that bridge eventually led to them developing a friendship, which in turn eventually caused many of them to leave that organization altogether.
Yeah, and in public speaking, they teach you that one of the if not the strongest way for a speaker to connect with an audience is through humor. But first of all, it's a lot to ask of anyone to remain calm and loving in the face of violent injustice, and that the onus is not on the victim or the ally to peacefully resolve that situation, or not necessarily like I'm not to sweetheartedly resolve that situation. I'm saying we can try to resolve that situation through peaceful protest or through shaming them, but yeah, so it's a lot to ask of a person. And but I also understand that the bigots are victims themselves, because they've been brainwashed by their subculture or their parents, and this kind of thing. And so that's why I like to have that mercy.
It's not necessarily. I was gonna say it's not necessarily always brainwashed. Sometimes people, they come from a very small background, and let's say they interact with a few Indian people, and they all turn out to be deceivers and con artists, and so they might have a hasty generalization, say the next Indian person I meet is going to be a deceiving con artist, and though because of their personal experience, nobody told them that, they just interpreted that from their limited experience with a very small fraction of the people that represents a billion people in this country.
True.
So it's not just people, your background.
I agree, but I also think we can brainwash ourselves through lack of critical thinking.
Yeah, hasty generalization.
And confirmation bias.
Somebody said earlier, they commented that shaming equals backfire effect. So usually I try to, there's a difference between guilt and shame. So usually, shaming typically makes somebody, withdraw into a corner and not feel empowered to change. They feel belittled, and their character is attacked, and basically they feel like they're now a worthless person and they can't change. Whereas helping someone to feel guilt is a positive thing, because it can help them realize that they've been doing something wrong and that they can change because they're a good person. And so like phrasing of that would be like, shaming would be like, so if we were talking, okay, well, let's say, okay, we're talking about a bigot who's hating on gay people. So shaming them would be like, you're a fucking bigot. You're a terrible person. Get out of here. That kind of thing. That'd be shaming. And then I would say that helping to inspire guilt would be, using more inclusive language. Like, look, when we say these things, when we say that gay people should be murdered, I feel like that's a form of bigotry. And I think you and I are better than that. It's like bullying somebody, and I think we're better than bullies, and we don't want violence to be done to us just because we're different from somebody, and so on. And so that is usually much more effective, but that doesn't always work. Sometimes none of these things work, and so you just have to get them out of the public. Like with fur shaming in the animal rights movement, there's people who wear a Canada Goose jacket, that has the fur trim. A lot of those people don't really they're not buying that coat necessarily for the vanity of having the fur trim. They just think they haven't seen videos of foxes being skinned alive or stuck in leg hold traps where they're screaming and they can't get out to go home and feed their babies. Okay. And so some of these people just aren't aware, and you can talk to them and make them, help them be educated and motivate them to zip that fur off, donate it to you so that you can give it to an animal sanctuary to use as bedding for orphaned animals. But if that person does not respond well, does not give us the answer that justice demands, which is the abolition of animal cruelty, then it's time to step it up a notch, because otherwise they're going to feel comfortable wearing the shit in public. And when you wear fur in public, you are promoting animal cruelty. You're saying this is a good fashion. You should buy it also. Aren't I cool and pretty? And people who wear full-length fur coats are much more like less likely to respond to the nice approach, because they're all about the vanity. They're
check out the price of a used car in that thing.
Yeah, some people wear fur, like an actual dead fox around, like with the head.
Yep.
Right? Those people need a different approach.
Taxidermy. Yeah. So, what do you think? Do you have an intuition as to the relative effectiveness of these approaches?
Yeah. So, I don't know if I can put a number on it, but there's an activist named Robert Banks.
Okay.
Like Rob Banks, right? So you can find him on social media, and you'll see a bunch of fur shaming where, sometimes they'll try to talk to him, and if it doesn't work, then they take it up a notch and say, "You fucking furhead, get the fuck out of here," because that person will then, next time they're going to leave their house, they might choose a different coat, because they might be afraid that they're going to run into us again and get shamed in front of 100 people, right? And us following them down the street, yelling at
or
them.
maybe they're scared for their physical safety.
Yeah, they could be, and maybe they should be.
If somebody's yelling threats at them.
Yeah, well, it's not necessarily, we're not yelling threats like I'm going to kick your ass or anything like that. It's just following them, making them uncomfortable, and yelling at them, and calling them names and stuff, and saying, "Hey, everybody!"
Do that to women, and they're terrified for their lives.
Like the animals.
Yes,
Okay.
like the animals are definitely terrified. So if I'm choosing which approach to use, how do I judge whether I'm spending my time appropriately and whether I'm being effective in my goals?
I'll answer that in 1 second. I just want to encourage everybody to, when this is over, go to YouTube and type in fur cruelty or fur farms, and you'll see, and you'll get traumatized like the rest of us, and you'll know how serious this is and how ugly it is when people ignore this situation.
You're invited to be traumatized. Okay.
What was your question? How do we discover which approach would be best in a given situation? I think, again, it's probably, as much as I often will say, I'm going to be nice to my debater or interlocutor, even if they are being a dick. Like when I do animal rights debates, these people are usually total assholes. But I try to maintain that high ground so that I look better to the audience and expose their irrationality and cruelty, and so that people don't want to side with them. And also, but I'm nice, but I'm firm, But sometimes I lose my temper, and sometimes it's warranted, sometimes it's not. Sometimes I just yell at people. But generally speaking, I like to, at least try to leave a good taste in their mouth so that they can reflect more later. But a lot of people will just straight up say, "I don't give a fuck about animals. I don't care if they're tortured. It tastes good. I want to eat their babies." And at that point, I could either, sometimes I do politely in the conversation and say, "Okay, well, I just hope you keep thinking about it. Thanks for the convo," and then leave. Okay. But I kind of feel like doing these things is to say, your violent behavior isn't so bad. We can have a nice conversation about it, and I'm not really going to judge you or your behavior. And that could be problematic.
So you're saying that's how it enables bigotry?
Yeah, even in debate, if you don't take it strong enough, But sometimes in a debate, the smartest approach is to hold back that one little notch, because the audience knows that you could have taken it up a notch, but you didn't. But you ended on that strong point that just made a logical, firm stance that the other person can't defend, and you didn't have to resort to yelling at them.
Nice.
So I just think there's just
sometimes that makes the good win.
Yeah. So it's
being restrained helps you achieve better traction, maybe.
In some situations, yes.
Yeah.
So it would be hard to analyze what course of action would be appropriate in each of these types of situations, because I haven't even mentioned all the different situations where these different approaches would be applicable. So, I mean, maybe we could make a list or some kind of chart eventually of the different situations and the different possible reactions. But I typically am a fan of start out nice and see how it goes. And even if they're being resistant and obnoxious and unrepentant, still stay nice and keep it up. And that hopefully will de-escalate them so that they'll be more empathetic and open-minded. But if it doesn't work, anger is a gift.
And you want to pull out the big guns. And
I want to make sure everybody hears this. Anger is a gift.
Yeah, anger can be very, very effective at provoking a reaction. Do you or you have any further questions? I would like to ask the last two questions. Veeral, anything before I jump into my hypotheticals?
Go for it.
No, nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay.
This is the same question.
Go ahead.
Before you do. I have brought this up because I see this happening a lot in SE. Like it happened to me. Like I got reprimanded by an SE moderator in the Discord. Like
that happens a lot.
8 months ago. And I understand they've I'm not trying to give them a hard time, but the situation was that somebody asked me, like a Christian was in there, and they asked me, Chase, you said that the Bible's evil. Can you give me an example of the Bible being evil? And I said, yeah, Leviticus 20:13, where God says to kill gay people. And I was like, what do you think about that? Is that moral? And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, that's not a sufficient answer. I'm not happy with that. You need to pick a side and right fucking now. And it ought to be on the side of the victims, not the oppressor. And then the moderator said, hey, Chase, you need to calm down. That's not how we do it here. And I understand that's not how you do it here, but maybe it is how you should be doing it here, because this is
it's like library rules,
a violation of human rights, and it's not. It doesn't create a safe space for bisexuals or anybody like us to feel comfortable around these people. And I see a lot of enabling of hatred for trans people in these SE conversations, and it's hard to watch. And I don't know why anybody would take a neutral stance or even a affirmative positive stance when you're doing Spectrum. I'm sorry, you guys, I'm getting mad, but like, trans people matter. They are real, and they are violently oppressed and have very high suicide rates.
Yes.
And we're over here mocking them or acting like it's not a big deal if other people mock them. And these are little kids a lot of times, man.
Yeah.
Laws are getting passed because of this bigoted rhetoric that's not based in any reality.
Yeah.
Laws are passed to discriminate further against these oppressed people.
Yeah. If you find any SEers mocking trans people, or really any of the other categories, please let me know, because I'm going to DM them and give them a ration of shit.
Well, honestly, it's kind of like even in the Spectrum, because in the Spectrum SEs, if you guys play those, and the issue is trans rights, and I see one of you step on the strongly agree that trans people are fucking crazy,
Sure. We would have to be able to steel man the sides to play the game right.
Yeah, I don't like seeing it. It's disgusting. It makes me lose respect for the SE practitioner. When an SE practitioner, it feels like you guys care so much about logic and knowledge and beliefs and being, right in the head. But epistemology is worthless without ethics. You can have all the right answers, but it doesn't matter if you don't take it into action and do the right thing.
Right. If I can steel man the side of something I don't agree with, and it pisses you off, and it shows you that side being ridiculous and unethical, can that have a benefit?
Maybe. I mean, I think it's well, okay, like I think what you're saying here is in the SE spectrum, if you're playing the hypothetical, like
Yeah.
if you're like, I'm not saying this is my position, but if I stood over here on the opposite side of the spectrum from you,
Right.
what
That's
do
what
you
we're
think
doing.
my reasons would be? That's different than you actually stepping on that thing and saying, this is where I actually stand. If you stand there, I don't want to know, because otherwise you're going to hear some shit from me, man, because
Okay.
you know, I'm an activist. I'm not an SE practitioner.
I hear you.
know?
I welcome your giving me shit. If you find me projecting a bigoted thing that is not couched properly as a hypothetical or a steel man or something like that, I want that feedback if I am being misunderstood to that degree. So yeah. So my hypothetical's up and down.
Mhm.
What
Can I
could
just
make you
say
go
one
ahead?
thing? Oh, you're in the middle of a
You go
question.
ahead first. You go ahead.
Oh, I was just thinking about myself as a religious person, 7, 8 years ago. If somebody came at me aggressively for the stance that I took, I would immediately shut down, back off, and I would not open my mind. I wouldn't listen to what you're having to say. I wouldn't feel shame or guilt about someone calling me a fucking idiot or uh, whatever. I would just be like, oh, that's, sad for them that they feel like they need to attack me.
Yeah.
Well,
Like, I don't, it wouldn't work with somebody who's really entrenched in that belief.
you might be
I don't
right.
think, at least
You
for
might
me.
be right. You might be right, but you also might be wrongly interpreting how your past self would have reacted to that, because like some people do.
Well, it did happen to me. Like,
okay, well,
I was in California during Prop 8, and I stood on street corners with Prop 8 signs, and I was that person. And I put my kids, made them do the same thing. And I mean, I have LGBTQ children now, so like I've 180 on that, but not because people threw eggs at us or called us stupid idiots or bigots, and none of that made any difference.
I'm not sure though. Like, I'm not trying to say you're lying or that you're even mistaken. I'm just saying it's possible.
Sure. She's only speaking for her own experience as opposed to all the others. You're speaking more in the generalization to the whole population. Sure.
That, but also even in this individual circumstance, I'm looking at the psychology of it, and a lot of times these things could have been little seeds that were planted that helped you get to that position that you didn't realize they were affecting you. Because if no one had countered your, imagine that no one had ever counter protested you, then you and your group would have been more emboldened to think that everything you're doing is right because nobody's against you.
Oh, we did think it was right because people were against us.
Well, there's that too.
Satan was trying so hard to stop this.
Yeah.
And it made it more clear.
Protestant, at least, and I'm pretty sure the Catholic, and I think I've heard this from Islam, that persecution is evidence that you're correct.
Mm-hmm.
I hear that argument as well. Yeah. I still think what I said is true, but I think what you just said is true as well. A lot of it's context dependent.
They've obviously written in a defense mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
But also, when you're the one protesting against gay people, we're not necessarily trying to convince you. We're not trying to convert you. You're not the target audience necessarily. I understand that with SE, that is, though in SE, you're not necessarily trying to change their opinion. But in any case, what a counter protest is doing is not expecting to win over the opposition now or ever. But we hope that happens. And we also think that, our protest might not be the thing that changes you, but, and that maybe later on you'll have a nice, pleasant conversation with somebody, and that will help you more than what we're doing. But the point of activism, like protests, draw attention to the issue, communicate the severity of the problem, and empower people to take collective action. And so what the gay rights the protesters who are fighting for gay people are doing is highlighting the bigotry of the opposition and empowering people who are on the fence about the issue, or people who are, pro-gay rights but aren't taking any action or speaking up in public. It empowers them to do so because they see us leading by example and not taking any shit.
Okay. So what? Go ahead.
So one thing I've noticed is, you can correct me if I'm wrong, any of y'all, but I've noticed street epistemology, it doesn't really talk too much about morality. It talks more about the truth claims of a given statement. Like, for example, there's a difference between the two claims. Trans people are discriminated against, and trans people should be discriminated against.
Right.
One of those claims I can either prove false based upon evidence is a descriptive claim, whereas the other one, trans people should be discriminated, that's a normative claim. It's based on a person's values.
Yeah.
And values, unfortunately, are subjective versus objective.
Yeah. So, Dali has done a lot of SE on me with normative moral claims, such as my claim that slaughter is animal cruelty. Well, I guess that's a descriptive one. But the other one was meat should be illegal. Meat should be illegal. So that's a normative.
Keyword should. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's fine. Like, I think SE works well in either of those departments. The phrasing needs to be changed a little bit from the practitioner, though, so that it's, instead of like, okay, what's your confidence level that this is true? It would be, what is your confidence level that this should be done, or that it would be a good thing to do?
Oftentimes I use the ROM question. ROM is one of the practitioners that taught me a lot of cool things. And what he says is, if everybody agreed with you in the world, what would change? And now we start talking again about a descriptive claim and start talking about the consequences of adopting this choice.
Okay.
And that gets us from normative back to factual, which is helpful oftentimes because it's a bit more concrete. Yeah.
One thing I want to throw in real quick is, like, I'm obviously very angry right now. And
that's okay.
It's funny though, because
I welcome your anger. It's fine.
Thank you. I'm usually really nice and sweet and stuff, but like I'm a bit fed up. But like, animal rights is my main thing, and I come on here multiple times being interviewed, and I'm not as angry as I am right now, which is funny. And I guess what's funny, the reason that's funny to me is because I guess animal rights is still new to a lot of people. Veganism, people don't understand it all yet. Okay, so I've got to like really paint a nice picture. With gay rights, this should be understood by now. Most of society is on board with gay rights. So anybody who's still pulling this shit is, just way out of line, and they should know better, because there's a whole culture that's trying to coax them out of this.
Stay out of Russia right now. Not just because you're between 18 and 25. Yeah, because they're really fucked up on that one.
And like, this is the main thing. I think this, like, anti-trans rhetoric seems to me to be the main thing driving the culture war that would help the Republicans win. Because I'm a communist, but the Democrats are at least, not hating on trans people. All right. Okay. I think I said enough. Right?
We're way off topic. But I hear your vote that Republicans in power are less good than Democrats in power for your values.
Yeah, and that, like, their whole thing, the Republicans' whole thing that they're trying to win on is that trans people are dangerous to your kids. Protect the children, but not children.
That's such nasty shit.
Humiliate the trans children, drive the trans children to suicide. That's what the Republican says.
Yeah, effectively. So, hypothetical up and down. What could you learn, something that you don't know today? So it's like a new thing you read tomorrow that would make you more sure that shaming is more effective than SE.
Yeah,
is that the new claim? Is that the new claim?
No, this is a hypothetical. SE can enable bigotry, and the subclaim that I got was that sometimes shaming is more effective than SE. That turned out to be, I think, the real claim is that that you need to have both, and you need to use both to be the most effective.
The public humiliation.
Yeah, allow public humiliation as an option if
may work better.
Right. Because so again, like, I'm not saying don't try SE on a bigot. I'm just saying it might not work.
Sure. You're saying start with it, and if it doesn't work, pull out the big guns.
Yeah.
Okay. So what could you learn tomorrow that would make you more sure that we should be willing to pull out the big guns if we don't get the proper response using SE?
Yeah, some kind of scientific experiments wherein, and I don't know how this would work, but where you got a control group of bigots who are not shamed, and maybe who we do SE on, or we just, no, I guess the control group you would do nothing to. They would just remain bigots, right? And we would see if they come out of their bigotry on their own or whatever. And then the other group would be the ones that the bigots that we're shaming.
Okay.
And we would see of the control group and the group that was shamed, which one has higher continuance of bigotry, at least.
Okay.
that we can detect through their actions, like, you know, them being bigoted towards others or espousing bigoted talk, you know.
Yeah. So imagine that we had a situation where there was two simultaneous protests going on by bigots, whichever category you're having, and they were coin flipped as to which bus they're going to go on, and they go to these two places, and then the other protesters do a coin flip as to which one, and they go to one of them and do shaming, and the other one they don't do shaming. Would that give us a natural observation enough to let us say how effective was it on the people?
I'm not sure. I'm leaning towards no, because I don't think that's a big enough sample size, and I was a little bit confused about, are you saying two different kinds of bigots, like people hating gays?
One group of bigots comes to a church parking lot to go do something, and there's buses going this way and buses going that way. They're going to do two simultaneous events, and they flip a coin as to which bus they're going to get on. So we do a random sampling of them. They go to two different events, and then the protesters respond at one event one way and the other event the other way, and then we can track the effect on the people because they filled out a questionnaire and they were willing to respond to us. It's very hypothetical. I bet there's some issues in there, but
maybe some of the people that we shamed, you know, like if they don't go to the protest, like if they get off the bus or they refuse to get on the bus after we shame them or something. But that could just be like a one-time situation wherein they go to the next protest where we're not at, you know, like a lot of times.
So you want to study where the event happened multiple times.
And does there need to be a third group where they do SE with one group, shame one group, and do nothing with one group?
Yeah, I would like to see that. I would also like to see a group that it's just debate, neither shaming nor SE, just debate. I might like to see another one where there's violence, but I'm not sure.
I don't know.
When it comes to violence, there's two kinds.
The review board is going to shut me down. No way. They're not going to let me do it.
I got you. But when it comes to violence, there's non-lethal violence and there's lethal violence. But anyways, sometimes that could escalate.
IRB is not going to pay. They're not going to allow either one of them. They're going to say Milgram experiment to hit with a book.
Well, I wonder if we talked to people who used to say they were bigoted, like myself. Like I would have not admitted it at the time because I thought I was doing the right thing. But I don't think that way anymore. And it was SE questioning that brought me out of it. So just a study of one.
Yeah. So again, that's another situation of like, if it's a one-on-one situation, it might be different than a group setting. If you're trying to convince multiple people, and like I've been to 200 protests for animals. And, you know, I'm very familiar with the megaphone, and it's great because it goes blocks and blocks, you know, so people hear it half a mile away, you know, whereas a one-on-one conversation doesn't reach that many people.
Megaphones annoy the shit out of me. I also really don't like vertical video, so don't worry about me. That's not an issue. So hypothetical down probably is the same thing because you're talking about data and studies. Okay. Is there a different hypothetical down that would make you think SE was a stronger and shaming was weaker? Other than the study kind of response of actually trying to measure real variables in the real world?
Well, I mean, at first we were talking about would shaming decrease their bigotry? But another question would be, does shaming increase their bigotry? which
Right,
would be
backfire.
maybe that backfire effect they were talking about. So if I were to shame one of the one of the group of bigots, and that actually made them more violent towards their victims, and again that was a long lasting thing, because then I would have to change my mind, but again, with utilitarianism, which I'm mostly a utilitarian, it can be very difficult to know what the long-term effects are, and whether or not it's actually helping the majority or not.
Okay.
The majority of victims, future victims, helping them.
Indeed. Thank you, Chase. Thank you for this. I appreciate you coming back, coming on, and I encourage you to go keep your megaphone charged and to use it in line with your values. I see you as a hero in terms of acting within your values.
I just like yelling at people. That's all. I'm just some dude that likes yelling. But I do just want to make sure everybody knows that justice demands action, and epistemology is nothing without ethics. And so if you care about logic and knowing the right thing, you ought to care about doing the right thing. And so that, knowing that it's wrong to, or agreeing with my statement that supporting slaughterhouses is needless animal cruelty means nothing if you keep buying these products and paying people to stab baby animals. Okay.
Oh, change of subject. Okay.
One last thing on that is that the way that bigots treat gay people is the way that meat eaters treat animals. Actually, it's worse. The way that we treat animals is way worse than any bigot who's done anything to any gay person. Go watch Dominion on YouTube and watch Dairy is Scary. Dairy is Scary on YouTube. 5 minutes
on YouTube.
6 million views.
Yeah, it's a beautifully done film. Very emotive. Thank you, Chase.
Okay.
Soldier on, do your thing. And side topic, I noticed that Daniel Ray has asked to speak with you and would like to test your Bible knowledge.
Let's do it.
I would pay at least a small amount of money to watch that. So if for some reason that's something that I can be on the fly on the wall for, I would love that.
Yeah, I don't know if Daniel Ray wants to do it on, if you guys want to do it on your channel with you moderating, or
if you guys decide to, great. And you all have channels too. I don't want to steal content from you, and I'm happy to host anything if that's at all helpful. I suspect Daniel's going to want to have conversation that's not recorded with you before he would think further with it, and enjoy that. Be nice to my friend Daniel. I like him. I like you. Cool. Please don't beat on each other too hard.
All right,
because you do strongly disagree about a few things.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah.
All right, see y'all.
Thank you, Chase. Bye, Chase.
See you.
Hello. All right. Yeah, thank you for lots of comments in the chat. I didn't want to digress the conversation down all those, that delta of
some really good comments.
Yeah. Some little evidence that it works. And I'm wondering if if society is divided into fractions of people who are not influenced by shaming much, a lot influenced by shaming much, and reversely influenced by shame. Perversely influenced, maybe that's the word. I don't mean perversion like nasty. I just mean like in the opposite way that be conversely. Sure, that would be another way. To where when you push on them, they move further in their direction as a result. And if so, maybe that could be like where people have decided to put themselves politically on a bunch of issues, and then you get alignments and groups, and then marketing people who can exploit those groups.
Well, and shaming people does work, like it especially with kids. If you can get them young and shame them in front of their peers or something, it will do something. But does the end justify the means?
And also as a long-term of a solution.
And
as
will
well.
they build resentment towards the person shaming them for trying to control
Oh, yeah.
them to
I
do a
think
different thing? Like,
sometimes
long-term.
yes, sometimes no. If I've actually been shifted in my thinking about it, I usually end up honoring that person, even if they annoyed me.
Mhm.
If I come to agree with them later, it's like, oh, okay, I misthought. I thought badly about you before. I should think better about you now. Is what happens for me, but that is the rare exception, because 90% of everything I don't change my mind about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's in really round numbers, by the way.
And some people do seek
And-
other people's approval more than others, just kind of in general. So shaming doesn't work on everybody.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, is that there's kind of a distinction, some kind of a dividing line there as to how people respond. I bet it's a bell curve, like almost everything.
Yeah, for sure.
Gina says she's reversely influenced by shame. The more you push, the more I retreat into myself and the point of view, and it's the pattern that created a lot of my social anxiety and hesitance to talk. Okay, so shaming pushes Gina in, and she becomes more firm in her position, but less willing to engage in the conversation about it. And I think that's at least the hypothesis or conjecture that SE is based in, is that if we cause somebody to withdraw, we ruin this and their next several opportunities to engage in a respectful dialogue that can inspire reflection. Trying to use all the right words for these things rather than explaining it the long way around. I'm studying glossary stuff right now for a writing project in a week.
Can you put up Kevin's comment? Kevin?
Shaming relies on the fear of not being socially accepted, but some people have social support groups that reduce that fear. Absolutely. Yes. If you come at me for being queer, I have so many of my people around me that will say, nope, they're wrong. Oh, okay. Whew.
But if it's your own group that is doing the shaming, you're facing like a banishment or a rejection, a personal rejection, and it becomes way more important at that point.
Yeah, I am strongly moved if a lot of my intimates tell me that I'm incorrect about something and I should think differently about it. I, at the very least, have to strongly consider it, like on the days scale, before I would decide that I was right.
For sure.
Shaming drug addicts makes them use more. Yeah, especially if part of their use is coping with social pressure, social anxiety, or whatever they're coping. Yeah, I agree. It's not the activist's fault that you don't care about justice. Yeah,
you can't do anything about that. Yeah.
Rosemary says shaming can be a tool for abuse. Yes, no doubt about it.
Tool of choice for a lot of them.
It's
manipulation technique.
Very difficult for me to do anything but skip a rock across Twitter. It's just I can't engage in that. It pushes me away. But Twitter might change. Anyway, don't need to change that subject.
This is a call-in show. If anybody wants to call in, right? Is it not a call-in show?
This is a call-in show. Let me post that up in there.
Let's put the link there.
Depend at the top, but you don't always have to go for those things. We welcome callers to come in. Veeral, you had something in your back pocket.
I do.
Time for that?
Yeah, this is a great time for that. Could you go ahead and share the link, Dali? Do you have the video on your side?
I have this video. Let me make sure it's set to the beginning. Do you want me to play the video first, or do you want to talk about the context of it?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about the context of it. So most of us who are watching Street Epistemology videos, usually you see people conversing when it comes to religious claims. You see people talking about, the people who talk about it usually are people of the Abrahamic faiths, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, but we rarely see people talk about their beliefs in God from the Eastern religions like Hinduism and Buddhism. And so what I thought would be really cool, and also because of the fact that the Hindu festival known as Diwali is going to be occurring this upcoming Monday, I thought it could be a nice little way to showcase an example of a argument for the existence of God as demonstrated by somebody who follows Hinduism, which I don't follow any religion at all, but I thought it'd be nice to share it to everyone. This example of a argument for the existence of God by somebody who follows Hinduism.
Cool.
I want to see
And
it.
so that guy's, you can think of, so in Hinduism they call priests, the way they call priests, they call them swamis. So when you hear the word swami, it's just their way of saying
cleric.
priest. Cleric, yeah, you can think of them like that.
Yeah.
And sometimes they also refer to them as monks as well. Sadhus is another. Sadhu is the Hindi term for a monk.
Okay.
And for Hinduism.
Mm-hmm.
So that's about the introduction. All I got.
Cool.
Thank you.
Give us a logical proof to the existence of God in one line. Give me the name of one thing or object that does not exist and is discussed so much. I was talking to IIM students in Bangalore a couple of months back, and after my talk, there was a question answer session, and one of the students, he raised his hand, and along with the faculty, he asked me a very simple question. Swami, can you give us the logical proof of the existence of God in one line without the help of scriptures? We don't want you to tell God, Krishna was God or Ram was God. Give us a logical proof to the existence of God in one line. I said, yes, I can. They asked, what?
Good storytelling.
And I said, give me the name of one thing or object that does not exist and is discussed so much. My question to you all, apart from God, forget God. Give me the name of one thing that actually does not exist and is discussed to this level every day.
I'll continue. I want to establish the claim here is if it is discussed
so much
a lot, it must be real. Is that it?
It sounds like that's where he's
Veeral,
going.
you're muted, Veeral. I don't hear you.
Sorry about that. I said some cool stuff while I was muted.
Okay.
Anyways, so what I was saying is, his basic idea is if something is discussed so much, then that thing must exist. That's essentially what he's getting at.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the keyword is so much. That's what he's getting at.
Okay, so he's requiring that it be discussed above a certain threshold in order for this argument to matter.
Yeah, and that's the thing that makes this kind of a bit of a Weasley language, I'd say, because you can bring up in the comments, I see Santa Claus as an example, but they can easily strike that down as saying, oh, that's not so much, that's not talked about so much. They can say that. So basically, it's very vague. So the word so much is very vague. Whereas if somebody said talked 100 times a day, then it's not so vague. But the phrase here is so much.
Yeah, there's no way to measure how much something is talked about.
Yeah, anybody can easily come up with an arbitrary standard in their head and then just shot down pretty much any other example that's brought up easily like that.
Yeah, this week if I go upstairs and talk, what I'm likely to hear is, "Oh, it's so long getting from there to here," from Enterprise. So that's Foyle's been binging Enterprise this week. So I'd be talking about Star Trek.
So much.
So much. Yeah.
I had a kid who talked about Power Rangers. So much.
Yeah. Pokemon.
So much.
My shirt.
Nice. I can't actually see it. Well, let's see. Nope, not that one.
Yeah, what is it?
It's too small for me to tell.
Sorry, it's an orange shirt, Pokemon.
Oh, okay. Yes, I see. Yeah, many different gods and god concepts. Yes. If we're talking about it this much, it's God in general, but no plurality of humanity is talking about close enough to the same God that can't agree on its properties.
Can we watch some more?
Oh, click there.
Almost all the households. And they all like, no, there is no other thing. I said, have you studied riders and theorems when you were studying calculus in high school and higher secondary? He said, yes. We used to start the rider. Suppose x is not equal to y. And then we would prove, so x is equal to y. Isn't it? That means if there is no other thing that does not exist and is discussed, the reverse is true. That which is discussed exists.
Really?
Simple. That which is...
I think it fails to acknowledge the gradient. It's like a binary. I think also it ignores fiction.
Yeah, it seems like the people in the audience, I don't know, I'm not sure if they're clapping because they genuinely believe that, or they actually were just clapping out of respect.
Sure. They might be clapping for the rhetorical flourish.
Or
what
that
if
too.
they stopped talking about God so much? Would he stop existing?
Yeah, and the other thing too is, even if somebody hasn't brought up any example of something that's discussed so much and doesn't exist, that doesn't mean that there isn't actually a thing that's discussed so much and doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
It's like the black swan fallacy. I've never seen a black swan, therefore they don't exist. Well, that's probably because just because we haven't seen one yet doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, black swans actually do exist when you go to Australia.
Yes. It's a fun thing how those dinosaurs use a huge ranging migration to form their life cycle or shape their life cycle.
I've never seen Australia. I'm not sure Australia exists. And I don't talk about it so much. So
right, that's true. You don't talk about it so much. I do have some friends who claim to be from Australia. They are professing Australians.
mm-hmm.
And I would be happy to see if they can evangelize you into the true belief regarding
I could be convinced.
The continent that might be an island or something.
Discussed exists. You take this statement with you and think over it, ponder over it when you're sitting back with your family. Anything that is discussed exists. You agree with me or not? Otherwise, you don't have the time to discuss. And actually, you don't have the matter to discuss. You don't have any information about it to discuss. When you have something to discuss, that you have some information about it. That means it exists.
Hold on. If I have some information about it,
it exists.
Is Darth Luke's father? Yes or no? Do you both know that answer? I bet most of the audience knows the answer. Is Darth Luke's father?
Let's talk about it so much.
Yeah, we could talk about it, but that means we have information about it. But that is an example of something that we also know is a fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anything that is discussed is exist. When God is discussed so much, it exists. Then the pros and cons according to the thought is different. So it exists. And he is the all-doer. Accept him as the all-doer in your life. Whatever happens in my life happens with the wish of God, happens for my good, and happens for my progress. Keep that attitude. That is beneficial. It is like medicine. You have a headache, you go to the doctor and the doctor gives you a pill. You don't know the single chemical ingredients of that pill. Do you read that? Tell me. You have faith in doctor, you take the pill, go to sleep, next morning you are fresh awake. Isn't it? In the same way, saints like Pramukh Swami Maharaj are spiritual doctors. They give you the pill of prayer. Take it. Don't go deep into the chemical ingredients or the emotional ingredients of it. Enjoy the benefits of it. We are used to enjoy the benefits of it. Because when you go out on a hot summer evening for an ice cream, you don't check from which buffalo the milk has come.
Buffalo?
In India, that's what they use ice creams. They
Buffalo
get
ice
ice cream from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're dairy cattle or buffalo some of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. In this case, I feel I'm getting the impression of don't worry your pretty little head about the details, just trust it.
Yeah.
And this also makes an argument from practicality. Just because a belief gives you benefits, that doesn't mean that the belief is necessarily true.
Yeah.
Placebo effect.
It seems like a noble truth being defended. Defending it as if it were a noble truth. Don't worry about whether it's true. If it gives you benefit, believe it just for that reason until you have better reasons.
Yeah. In my church, it was the Is this essential to your salvation? No, then don't worry about it. Just accept it for what it is.
Yeah, indeed.
You still have to demonstrate that salvation exists in the first place. That's what I would say.
Have faith.
And is that a good way to tell if something is true or not? So on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might lean you a little bit, but it's not something that you should get high certainty from by itself.
You just enjoy the ice cream. In the same way, acceptance of his existence, attachment with God in terms of prayers and devotion, enjoy the fruits of spirituality. Why are you going deep into it? People have already done it. Enjoy the fruits of it.
Cool.
Enjoy the fruits.
Okay, so thank you for bringing that to us. We can discuss the argument there. I think we kind of picked it apart as we went. Any further ideas?
I can share my screen. I actually took some notes on this if you.
Oh yes, thank you.
If y'all would like to see it.
Yeah.
Let
Yes, I
me
would.
share my screen. Okay, let me know when y'all can see my screen.
There you go. I see it.
Okay, so I give a little background to the video, but we've already saw the video. And what I did was I essentially tried to put his argument in standard form. And it's a deductive argument, meaning it's an argument that attempts to show that the truth of the premises guarantees the truth of the conclusion. And I put the argument in standard form like this. Premise 1, if something is discussed so much, then that thing must exist. Premise 2, God is discussed so much. Conclusion, God must exist. And the way I analyze the argument is a two-step process. I first see if all the premises were true, would this mean that the conclusion is guaranteed to be true? And then the second step is to see if all the premises are actually true. And so the first step, it's valid, meaning that it follows meaning if the premises are all true, then the conclusion must be true because it follows the form, if P then Q, if P then Q, P, therefore Q. So that's the first step. The second step is to seeing if all the premises are actually true. Do you all have any questions, or are you all following?
I'm following that. Good permanent logic.
I like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the second step is to see if all the premises are true. So for premise 2, God is discussed so much, I'd say that's a pretty true statement. Is there anyone who disagrees with that?
I agreed. God is discussed a lot.
Yeah,
I don't know how much is the threshold that he's saying is the necessary threshold, but I certainly have no trouble that half the people in the world talk about God on a weekly basis.
Okay, so premise 2 we'd pretty much accept as true. It's premise 1 that's the contentious premise. And the way you prove a if-then statement false is to see if the antecedent is true but the consequent is false. Or in this case, find something that is discussed so much but doesn't exist. And I actually made a list in blue of stuff that came from top of my head that I say is discussed a lot but doesn't exist. Necromancy, Twilight, add that to the list. Aliens, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster. But the thing is, some of these things are logically possible. Flying Man, Sasha, thanks. So the thing is, even though we can't get 100% say they don't exist, we can say with pretty good probability that they don't exist. In other words, it's not logically impossible it's not logically impossible for them to exist. It's just we don't have any evidence for their existence, so we say possibly it doesn't exist.
We
Unlike
also
a
have
square-shaped
strong
circle.
evidence of intelligent design.
What was
with
that,
any of
Dali?
those things, we have strong evidence that many of those things on your list have intelligent design, and we know their creator.
Mm-hmm.
Like Star Wars, that's George is intelligent, and so are all the people that work for him. Shout out to Pelagia.
Oh, I see. So then I bring up the example of, let's just say I couldn't think of anything, and let's say I couldn't think of anything that's discussed so much and doesn't exist, but it's then to be an argument from ignorance. We can't just say for certain that just because we haven't found anything that's discussed so much and doesn't exist doesn't mean that there is such a thing like that. And then the last part is I like to say stuff that I liked. I liked how he didn't use his religious book as evidence for the existence of God, because that would be an example of circular reasoning. And also, I like how he spoke in English, as most of that religious group, their works are in either Hindi, which is the official language of India, or Gujarati, which is a sub-language in India.
How common are those languages spoken? Is that
So Hindi is
most
the
people speak both, or what's the situation there?
So India is divided into different states, and one of the states is called Gujarat. It's on the west coast. It's on the west coast of India, and
Is that
in
what
that
Bangalore
area.
is?
What's that?
Is Bangalore in Gujarati?
Bangalore and Gujarati. I don't think so. No, not
Okay,
from the top
go
of my
ahead.
head. But yeah, Gujarati is spoken by people in that state, Gujarat. But Hindi is like think of it like Hindi is the official language of India. So pretty much everyone speaks Hindi, or most people there speak Hindi as their language.
Okay. Cool. So
could you say that like Harry Potter exists as a character in a series of books? In that way, he does exist.
Yeah, he's firmly in the general imagination of people.
And Star Wars is a series of movies.
This kind of seems like the ontological argument for the existence of God, if you think about it.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, if we can imagine a thing, the better thing would be the one that exists, and therefore the best thing must exist.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm summarizing that right. Yeah. I also want to call him out for really good presentation. His pause and calm ice cream, very emotive. Beautifully done.
Style is very, very good.
Yeah. I also have a real fondness for Bangalore English. I worked with people from Bangalore back a couple of decades ago, and I love this. I love the sound of it. It's beautiful to me.
Is that one of the accents you do?
Yes, I actually just sort of pretend that I'm one of those people that I knew, and that's how I do the accent.
Also, this group they also have a website. Can you all see that, or is it too small?
Yeah.
So
I see it.
This is the group of Hinduism group that person belongs to. It's called BAPS, which is it's an acronym for this long name. I won't attempt it, but anyways, this
what does the name mean? It's none of that is. Oh, okay. They're just going to describe it. A spiritual Hindu faith roots in Vedas. Okay.
This is from their website. Yeah.
Go ahead.
And then this is like, if you just typed in baps.org, this would be their front page right here.
Okay.
And then I was talking to Dali about this in the back show. There's actually, on their website, they actually have a 3-part proof for the existence of God. It's pretty long.
Okay.
But maybe we can go over that some other time if
you like.
If you want. Or we can do it.
Up to you. Talking about God so much?
No. This is from a different person.
Okay.
Okay. Can you summarize what the 3 are?
Summarize? It's honestly like a collection of different types of arguments. It's really hard to summarize them.
Okay, so it's a lot more than 3 arguments, not just 3.
Yeah, it's more. Yeah, it's way more.
3 categories of arguments. I see.
Well, no, not 3 categories. 3 pages worth of them.
Oh, I see.
It's like,
okay, the parts are just for reading length then.
Yeah.
Okay. Are any of these significantly different than what we see in say monotheistic apologetics?
Let's see.
Or you can skip a rock across the top and we can figure that out for ourselves.
Yeah, you want to figure it out?
Sure, go for it. And I'll throw up the banner in case somebody wants to call in.
Okay. So you just want me to scroll down and point out if you noticed anything?
Can I ask a dumb question about Hinduism?
Sure.
I thought they believed in many gods. They're just referring to one.
The idea that I understand it is there's 3 main gods in Hinduism: Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Brahma
Yeah.
represents the creator, Vishnu the preserver, and Shiva the destroyer. But then all the other variations of God, like the way I understood growing up, is that it's a different representation of different aspects about reality. Like kind of like how the Greek gods, if you think of Zeus, Apollo, Athena, they
They're
represent different
over
they represent
different
different aspects of humanity. You can think of you
naturalistic
can
things.
think of all these other gods in Hinduism like that.
But is there one main one? Like when he's talking about God and using it singularly, what is that in referring
So
to?
so for this branch of Hinduism called Swaminarayan, they believe this person. They believe this person is a embodiment, a manifestation of a god, like a
Oh,
human.
so this is their Jesus. This
Yeah,
was a
you could.
person that lived in the past.
Yeah,
And
you could say that.
in what way are they unique and special? Are there miracles claimed? Things, for example.
And I didn't
There.
mean to change the direction here. I can look this up on my own later.
Well, yeah, there you go. As early as 1804, was reported to have performed miracles. I don't know the full story behind all of them. I just know
Okay.
like the base level of them.
Okay. And
Interesting.
how prevalent is this sect? Is this a very minority sect, or is this a relatively mainstream sect?
Oh, it's pretty big. It's pretty popular
Okay.
in India and also even here in the U.S. where I live as well. It's
Okay.
pretty popular.
Cool.
Okay. So, sorry for that digression. Please continue.
Oh, you were saying you wanted to just go scroll down and see if we see an argument that we haven't heard before and from the monotheistic religions.
That would be special if we have one that doesn't strongly overlap. And noticing when they do overlap is also helpful to me. Gives me a proportion.
Okay. Do you want me to put this? I can put this link in the chat. Can I?
Yes, please.
That'd be good.
Let's see. How do I do that?
If you put it in the private chat, for some reason it might block you trying to do so. But if you put it in the private chat, I'll
there you go.
relay it.
Cool.
Okay.
Also, another side note on Hinduism, there are some people who believe Hindus worship cows. That's actually not true. What they actually do is they respect and revere the cow. They don't worship it. They just respect and revere it because it provides them food, fuel, because at that time they used dung as fuel in rural parts of India and so on.
Yep.
So the term holy cow isn't really that accurate.
Well, holy, like something like deserves respect or reverence towards, but not like I worship this cow on a daily basis, stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
So
I
that's
think
a
it's
common
closer
misconception
to,
about it.
Like the cows don't have powers or.
No, though there might be some Hindus in India who actually believe that. From my understanding, majority of them, they don't believe that.
Cows.
Yeah, no. There might be some, of course, in India with 1 billion people. That may be a possibility.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. 3 times the likelihood of it happening here, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Sure.
Yeah, indeed.
Just statistically, it's likely.
Or maybe even more, considering how small India is. I mean, considering how small the Hindu population is in the U.S. as opposed to India.
Oh, right. Yeah, actually, I was just thinking in terms of the population having any particular notion, like reincarnation or other kind of things. It's going to happen.
Yes, Sasha is correct. There are some people who do that.
Consume cow's urine as a healing remedy. How does that work?
I don't know.
Well?
There was actually some claims by religious people during COVID that cow dung can actually prevent COVID. Like that was people actually bought into that claim in India.
It'll keep people away from you. So maybe,
yeah, that it could have a secondary effect of that nature, but a healing or protective effect doesn't seem indicated by anything that I can tell that isn't weird reasoning, associative, believing because this is associated with that, because this symbol, because this reasoning, because the causal chain gets too long for me. Can't make the connection. Yeah. So, callers, call in.
We need some callers.
About a half an hour. and we don't have to actually stick it out for the whole time. It's been a good show, and I appreciate. Are there any other topics? Veeral, have you? You were going to also talk about the the next Monday, the holiday. What is this? Oh, we have a caller. Hello, Adi. Welcome.
Sasha, I will answer your question later. Email me.
Good.
Hello. Can you hear
Adi.
me?
Yes, now I hear you.
Let me stop the YouTube. So,
Thank you.
okay. So can I stop the camera? Now that I'm...
Can you turn off the camera?
Yes.
If it's necessary, sure.
Okay.
Okay.
I prefer it for speed and stuff. So.
Okay. And its reasons, yeah.
Hey, so I have a claim, and I'm not really sure I thought of it thoroughly because I don't tend to talk about this stuff. So
we won't judge too harshly.
I think the SE community is not friendly to, not welcoming to new people. It's friendly enough, but it's not welcoming.
In what way?
I can only base it on my experience with the Discord server. I just joined it. I didn't know all the rules, and I made a suggestion on one of the claim chats that seemed like a response to another person, and yes, it was in a way a response, but that response was deleted automatically on the first mistake, no warning, no nothing, and then there is no channel to communicate this or remedy it,
So
in the
your
future.
comment was deleted?
Yes.
Without explanation or a chance to edit it or anything?
Yes, I mean, and then when I try to talk on other channels to voice my concern, those were also deleted. And this is stopping me from supporting SE International more.
I haven't heard that before. Have you guys?
Yes. The Discord is very much a bit like a strict library with a strict librarian, and
yeah, I'm not on it that much, so I don't know.
Yeah, I use it as kind of a work office space, but socially, it's I mostly answer questions if they're addressed to my specialties, and stay out of it a bit. I used to be on staff there, and I'm thankfully and very happily not there for a year now, and I'm happier for it. Yeah, the Discord's a bit of a mixed bag in that there's some huge advantages to it, and lots of big compromises.
Is there a way to communicate with the staff and
yes, you
make
can
changes, or what is the process? Because that is not clear on the Discord server.
Not clear how to create a ticket. Okay, let me share my screen.
Do you have an idea why that would have happened to Adi? How do you pronounce your name?
Adi.
Adi.
Okay.
Okay, so if I'm in SE, I go up to create support ticket. It's in the server desk up at the top. And then I would hit the create ticket button to here to create a ticket that then creates a specific private channel with you and staff, and you can talk to them about anything you like. I create tickets quite constantly asking for simple things like, please give this person this role, or could you this, or the little sub channel of the something where I need staff to do it. And of course, 90% of the time there, it's not, there's no controversy to it at all. It's just asking for something that requires staff permissions. Other times it's wow, I have this thing that is concerning me and I would like staff to address my question, comment, request, discussion, whatever, something of that order. And the staff is really professional and depending on the makeup of the staff at any one time, sometimes very rigid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
To be clear, SEI is no board members, nobody that's an officer of SEI is allowed to be staff on this server or any other public, what do we
Mm-hmm.
call it? Social network.
Public facing, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there's issues of small things growing to big things.
Mm-hmm.
So the SE Discord is very much its own community-driven thing that is independent and completely controlled within that community.
Okay, thank you. It helped very much. I think the fact that it's independent and there is a channel to communicate with the staff.
There is, yes.
Makes me more likely to increase my support for the actual society, actual community.
Thank you. And we SE, the Street Epistemology community is very much populated by people that are ex-theists, that commonly, and as a result, having been part of very high control groups, we bend over backwards to be a very low control group. And the SE Discord is strangely an anomaly in that.
Yeah, I noticed that. That's why I haven't abandoned the SE community completely, because the examples, videos, and recordings, I'm binging podcasts right now. So
thank you.
I appreciate the openness of those examples, but the Discord doesn't seem to match,
Yeah, the Discord is, I really think of it like it's a well-controlled library, and it seems maybe there is an opportunity, maybe there's something for a SE community space that is not the rigid study space. And I don't actually have time to make that happen. You can come here and talk to me, but I'm busy doing this. And I would so be happy to have some of those. There are some Discords that are strongly aligned, like the Better Conversations Discord has SE and other good ways of communicating as its focus. And there's the Inspire Reflection Discord, which is kind of SE centric as well. And all of those have very different social taste constriction. The community treats their interaction very differently on all those
different
sites.
cultures.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. That's about it. I don't know if
Adi.
you want to.
I like your name, Adi.
Yeah, thanks. It's a shortening of the actual name, but yeah.
My cousin's son, his name is also Adi. They both live in Australia, though.
Yeah, I'm also international, so yeah. Thank you again, and I always enjoy these
Thank you.
shows.
Thanks for calling in here. I'm glad you called in, because that's probably other people having a similar experience or same kind of question. So
Yeah, I suspect I know that some of the staff regularly watch this show, so they'll probably get this feedback directly. And
okay, then.
And I invite you to create a support ticket, even if it's just to vent your dissatisfaction. That's useful feedback.
Yeah, share the experience.
Yes.
Thank you.
Then have a nice rest of the show. Bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We have to make sure we're not all waving at once as the broadcast will end. Yeah, AI hooked up. Yeah, so let's see. Back to inviting there we go. And my birds are inviting things. I've got one of my girls singing egg song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can answer Sasha's question if we have a minute.
Yes, please.
I'll pull that up. How do you get people to show up to your meetings? At first, did you advertise it or build through word of mouth? I did 0 advertising. I just made a group on meetup.com. So, and I don't know if that's everywhere, but here in Salt Lake City, that's what I did. I just formed the group. I planned some activities, some events, and I put it on that. I think I might have put it up on the Discord somewhere that I was starting the group, but that's all I did. And people just started coming. And now it's word of mouth and meetup. And I do put it on Discord sometimes. I'm not real consistent with it, but people just showed up. And I was okay, like if nobody showed up too. So I would just bring work to do, or, I mean, we're at a library, so there's always books to read or videos to watch or whatever. So I'd hang out there, but I've never had nobody show up. I've always had, I think our smallest meeting was like 4 people. And it's always been between 4 and 15 people that show up every time.
Did you have like a printed agenda?
Totally copy my meetup ideas. Yeah. What was that?
Did you have like a printed agenda that you had that you gave to people who came in to tell them that this is what we're going to talk about, X, Y, and Z?
Yeah. At first I didn't, because I assumed like the people that were coming already knew about SE and already knew, had got, because they're here because they're into it. And a lot of them are beginners. Mm-hmm. So after a couple months, I started writing up. I have my group stuff somewhere. I have like an outline that I follow now, and we do like we do introductions. So there's always new people. So even if there's not new people, we just a reminder of our names and why. I asked 3 questions. What's your name? Why are you here today? And what do you know about street epistemology? And we go around and do that. And then we do like an educational study portion for 15, 20, half an hour minutes. And we do different things. Sometimes we watch a video and we break it down, or we take a section out of this, how to have impossible conversations. Or the other day, I just wrote a bunch of questions on cards. I don't know if you can see that.
Okay. I can see it.
And like, what would convince you to let go of a belief? And so I just put them upside down, and whoever wanted to pick a card, they get to answer it first and then open up for discussion with the group. So some of these are off the SE survey. Some of them are just stuff I've heard in videos. And so that was really fun. And we did the scale on the floor one time. We need to do that again because that was fun too. So we just do different activities, and then we have practice conversations, which we usually just do an audio recording of that. And people can just watch or listen, and then a lot of people take notes, and then we'll discuss it afterwards. What went well? What would you have asked? What should we have done differently? So we do introductions, study time, practice time. And I go for an hour and a half. And we've never ended at an hour and a half. It always goes over. So I reserve the room for 2 hours, sometimes 2.5 for setup and breakdown. But so that's our basic meeting.
We use Meetup as well. Reed has a Meetup account for our Los Angeles opportunity at UCLA each Wednesday. This last Wednesday, Eric Anderson came by and did busking with us, and that was great. You can see him on past videos on juggling lessons. He's a talk therapist, family therapist, and so he's a real ringer when it comes to SE. Therapists already have the communication skills down, so that's a big help.
Very helpful.
Yeah. So if you're in the Los Angeles area, there's a meetup. Hit me up. I'm at jugglingLessons@gmail.com, and I'll punch you all the details and information when I look them up. I'd throw them in the link right now, but I don't want to distract myself with looking it up. That's actually how I first met up with Reed in the beginning of 20.
On Meetup?
He started that Meetup thing, and it hit the Discord, and I saw it, and I went, oh, opportunity. And so I set the date, and I went and visited him, and that started a whole new branch of my hobby.
What did you know about street epistemology before you went?
I'd started watching Anthony in, I don't know, 15. near when he started, and I similarly also learned Bigotry and his book at around that same time. And then I started watching Read in 16 and Let's Chat. That's Dr. Tyrone Wells. And with those three, I started trying to put SE into practice in 18, and I was terrible at it and had many crashes and burns. And then in 19, I started getting pretty good at it enough to start doing it online. And then in 20, I met Reed, and immediate feedback, lots of practice, and my improvement radically accelerated.
Yeah.
And now I'm almost good at it.
You're great at it. But I've seen a lot of people come into my group who have never really heard of it before, but it sounds interesting, so they just want to learn more. And some people are just really a natural, like they just pick it up really quick. And the rest of us have to like practice and learn and practice some more and get feedback. But it's fun to watch that progression in people as they get better and better.
SE is a collection of tools that are common independently. We're not using any new tools. We're just selecting which ones go in the box and telling us not to use the hammers or any of the ice picks. Just leave some of those tools off the shelf. Only the wrenches, only the and put those pliers aside. Those kind of things.
Is calling the group SE and not something like Possible Conversations a good move?
That's a good question. I think
it would, because street epistemology, I mean, if I told some random person on the street about that word, they'd be like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Now, us, we know what it is.
It's not a common word for people.
Yeah.
Most people need to learn what epistemology means.
Yes. And that's what most people say when they come to the group. They had to Google it and see what is this? It sounds interesting. It sounds cool, but I've never heard of it. So that is a thing. But I like using street epistemology in our title because that's what I like doing. And I like the connection with it. And I like going out in public and doing like the street part of the street epistemology too, not just sit around and talk about philosophy. So
yeah. I think there's a significant cost to the having to explain it. I also think there is a big advantage in terms of like search engine optimization, in that it's an unusual enough term that if you search for it, you're going to get a relatively clear signal about street epistemology. So the marketing advantage might be worth the extra cost of it. I don't think that was planned in, but changing it at this point, we're open to it. Right. We're happy to talk about it, and if we have a lot better reason, then we might do that. For example, we've changed a lot of our jargon. We used to be really strong about like SEer and interlocutor, and now interviewer and claimant is more common, and those are more common English words.
Yes, I try not to use those, the interlocutor particularly, because nobody knows what that means either. I mean, I had to look it up as well.
It's good if you know Socratic dialogue,
which most of us don't.
we don't need to teach people Socrates' terms in order to
have a conversation. Yeah. It's good to know. So it does come up once you get into street epistemology, and so you understand what other people are talking about. To learn, to start out, all the extra vocabulary isn't necessary. Try to keep it simple and straightforward. Yeah.
Jargon and vocabulary is such a, I love it. I want it so much. It's, I'm a pedantic word freak. So sorry. It's just, it's the thorn in my flesh. Deal with it.
Well, sometimes you get to like an expert level, and the vocabulary, and if everybody's on the same page, it's great because you can be more specific and more specific the more larger vocabulary you use.
Yeah. So it's not good if what I'm doing is filtering off the beginners. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Better to bore the experienced than filter the beginners.
Right. Don't need to intellectualize it or academize it. Don't need to make it overcomplicated.
Street part.
Street.
Gotta have that street part.
On the street.
Yeah, keep it available to almost everybody.
Exactly.
But not pets and children.
Well,
only
some pets.
Yeah, some pets, some children. Yeah. So if any other callers, call in now. Somebody's gonna wave.
Last chance.
All wave at the same time, and it's just gonna be done if that happens. So give us a call in case we could happen. Anyway, and also we are happy to answer questions or pick up comments said in the chat. So if you don't want to show your face, you don't want to do your voice, but you still want to have something talked about, quick, throw it in. We got 10 minutes.
Last chance.
Yep, last chance. Would SE work on Tucker Carlson? I think Tucker Carlson is a Chapter 7 ideologue. Chapter 7 referring to the Impossible Conversations topic of people who aren't going to change, and I think of as stuck on transmit. And SE would work only in the sense that I would get to learn his position and his dialogue on it. And if I had an audience, I bet I could compel some of them away from his viewpoint by having him expose the flaws in his reasoning if he was willing to submit to a careful examination.
The other thing, Dali, too, to keep in mind is that it's hard to get a person to understand something when their salary depends upon them not understanding it.
Yes, absolutely. And nowhere in there was I expecting to change Tucker Carlson's mind on any of that thing. It would be me learning, becoming better prepared, being able to understand better, being able to have conversations with people who lean Tucker Carlson's way, but who are maybe movable, as well as addressing the audience, which is so much of the time the audience is there. So it's kind of baked into my thinking that I don't mind at all if the person in front of me isn't changing their mind at all. If it's informative to the audience, still worth my time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Rosemary said Chapter 7, and my brain goes to bankruptcy. That's what I was thinking too.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
So I'm glad you clarified.
Chapter 7 of Impossible Conversations is just
Right.
I used to teach using it as an outline or as a textbook.
Mm-hmm.
So I think of the different chapters as like 7 different chunks of
Chapter
curriculum.
7. Master level, 2 keys to conversing with ideologues.
Yes.
That's the title of the chapter.
Yeah. It's good stuff. Yes. I so agree with Gina. Not having an audience makes people feel safer to share.
That is true. I agree with that.
When we are doing SE demonstrations in public, our hope is as much to model and provide demonstration of teach in a demonstrative way the process so that people can use those in their regular conversations. And I suspect the number of conversations that are SE that happen without recording vastly outnumber those where they are recorded. And that's a really good thing. That we are bothering to publish a whole bunch of this is because we want to spread the idea, because we want to encourage people to take on the practice because we think it's effective in achieving our goals. And if you agree with the goals and you agree that the practice is a good one to go with, then you might do it and find whether it fits your goals or not. Just all that.
Yeah, for sure. A good example is that interview that Mark did with the missionary, the LDS missionary. Like, I think he wasn't being completely...
Matthew?
No. Was his name Matthew? I thought it was a different one. Okay. But I don't know. It was a video a couple months ago.
Okay. Oh, okay.
It felt like he was answering the questions to an audience and saying the answers that would make the church leaders agree with him rather than his own personal opinions.
Okay, so he was speaking to the audience of his own congregation,
knowing it was being recorded and was going to be on YouTube.
Absolutely, yeah.
Rather than just what he was actually feeling and thinking.
Yeah. For me, the thing that I'm surprised about is how forthcoming and honest people are in front of a camera. I usually expect that if I stick a camera in front of your face, you're just going to turn on the shallow clown of conformity. And I find people not doing that enough of the time that I'm pretty happy. Yeah. Ironically, it was published SE that turned me on to the approach, and I think the approach in this case is of non-published or non-recorded SE. Gina is a specialist of that. If you want some SE that is not recorded, Gina absolutely rocks. She's amazingly skilled and capable, and rather likes the idea of the not recorded thing. So hit her up. And if you can't find her, hit me up and I'll connect you. jugglinglessons@gmail.com. I'm free to come in.
Do whatever works for you.
Yeah, indeed. Any last words?
Nope.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Veeral.
Thanks for having me today. It's been fun.
Same here.
See you next time.
Very cool. Bye.